My family mocked my career choice until I became their boss. Growing up in a household where success was measured by titles and paychecks, I was the black sheep from day one. While my older brother sailed through medical school and my sister climbed the corporate ladder at a prestigious firm, I was hunched over my laptop at 3 a.m., debugging code and dreaming of building something that mattered. My parents didn't hide their disappointment when I dropped out of business school to pursue programming full-time. The family dinners became torture sessions. Every Sunday, without fail, my father would ask when I was going to get a real job while cutting his steak with surgical precision. My mother would sigh dramatically and mention how the neighbor's son just got promoted to senior analyst. My siblings would exchange knowing glances, as if my career choice was some phase I'd eventually outgrow. The worst part wasn't the constant criticism. It was how they'd change the subject whenever I tried to explain what I was working on. I remember the exact moment I decided I'd had enough. It was Thanksgiving 2019, and I'd just landed my first major client contract. I was excited to share the news, thinking finally they'd see that my unconventional path was paying off. Instead, my uncle laughed and said I was playing with computers like a teenager. The table erupted in chuckles, and something inside me snapped. I excused myself, walked to my childhood bedroom, and made a promise to myself that I'd prove them all wrong. The contract was with a mid-sized logistics company that needed their entire system modernized. It was exactly the kind of challenge I'd been preparing for, and the payment would finally give me some financial breathing room. I spent weeks preparing the proposal, researching their industry, and crafting solutions that would revolutionize their operations. When they accepted, I felt like I'd finally made it. This was my chance to show everyone that my unconventional path had been the right choice all along. But my excitement was short-lived. The family's reaction to my news was even worse than I'd expected. My cousin, who worked in finance, actually laughed out loud when I mentioned the contract amount. He said it was cute that I thought building websites was a real career. My aunt chimed in with stories about her friend's son who made real money in pharmaceutical sales. The conversation quickly shifted to my brother's latest medical conference and my sister's promotion prospects. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, watching my family dismiss the biggest achievement of my career like it was nothing. The contract that represented months of hard work and sleepless nights was reduced to a punchline. I realized that no matter what I accomplished, they'd always see me as the family failure who played with computers instead of getting a proper job. But then my biggest client suddenly pulled out, leaving me broke and humiliated. The call came on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing the project timeline. The logistics company's new CEO had decided to go with a larger, more established firm. They apologized for the inconvenience and offered to pay a small cancellation fee, but it was nowhere near enough to cover the expenses I'd already incurred. I turned down other projects to focus on this one, and now I was left with nothing but debt and damaged confidence. The humiliation was crushing. I'd bragged to my family about landing this contract, and now I had to admit it had fallen through. My father's reaction was predictable, a mix of sympathy and vindication. He didn't say "I told you so" directly, but his expression conveyed the message clearly. My mother suggested I consider going back to school for something more stable. My siblings offered their condolences with barely concealed relief that their unconventional brother had finally learned his lesson. I spent the next week in my apartment, alternating between rage and despair. My savings were depleted, my reputation was damaged, and my family's faith in me had hit rock bottom. I considered taking my father's advice and applying for traditional jobs, but something deep inside me rebelled against the idea. I'd come too far to give up now, even if it meant proving everyone right about my foolishness. The breakthrough came when I decided to stop chasing big contracts and focus on smaller, more manageable projects. I created profiles on every freelancing platform I could find and started bidding on anything that matched my skills. The work was mundane, fixing broken websites, updating outdated systems, building simple applications. But it paid the bills and slowly rebuilt my confidence. My new approach was methodical and patient. Instead of trying to land one massive contract, I built a portfolio of smaller clients who valued reliability over innovation. I worked 16-hour days, responded to messages within minutes, and delivered everything ahead of schedule. My apartment became a fortress of productivity, with multiple monitors, whiteboards covered in project timelines, and enough coffee supplies to fuel a small army. The steady stream of positive reviews and repeat clients gradually restored my professional reputation. I wasn't making headlines or landing prestigious contracts, but I was building something sustainable. My bank account slowly recovered, and more importantly, my confidence began to return. Each completed project was proof that I could succeed in this field, regardless of what my family thought. Then I met another developer who changed everything about my business approach. His name was Marcus, and he reached out after seeing my work on a restaurant's website. He was looking for a technical co-founder for his startup idea, a comprehensive business management platform designed specifically for small and medium-sized companies. We met at a coffee shop downtown, and within minutes, I knew I'd found someone who shared my vision for what technology could accomplish. Marcus had the business acumen I lacked, while I brought the technical expertise he needed. Our personalities complemented each other perfectly. He was the optimistic visionary while I was the practical implementer. We spent hours discussing the market gaps we'd identified, the solutions we could build, and the potential impact of our platform. For the first time in months, I felt genuinely excited about a project. We started working together in his garage, which he'd converted into a makeshift office. The space was cramped and poorly ventilated, but it was ours. We'd arrive at sunrise and work until midnight, fueled by takeout food and shared determination. The first version of our platform was basic but functional. It combined inventory management, employee scheduling, customer relationship tools, and financial tracking into one cohesive system. The development process was intense but rewarding. We debate every feature, test every function, and iterate constantly based on user feedback. Marcus handled the business development while I focused on the technical implementation. We complemented each other's strengths and covered each other's weaknesses. Within 6 months, we had a working prototype and our first paying customers. Our early clients were small businesses who'd been struggling with disconnected systems and manual processes. They loved having everything integrated into one platform, and their enthusiasm validated our approach. We started getting referrals and positive reviews, which led to more customers and steady revenue growth. The business was gaining momentum, and I finally felt like I was building something meaningful. The success of our startup began to change how I saw myself professionally. I wasn't just a freelancer anymore, I was a co-founder, a business owner, and a leader. The confidence I'd lost after the failed contracts slowly returned, reinforced by each milestone we achieved. Marcus and I made a good team, and our platform was solving real problems for real businesses. Meanwhile, my family's business started falling apart, and they desperately needed help. My father's consulting firm had been successful for decades, but the digital transformation was leaving them behind. Their clients were demanding more efficient processes, better reporting, and integrated systems that the firm couldn't provide. Revenue was declining, key clients were leaving, and the staff was overwhelmed by manual tasks that should have been automated years ago. The first sign of trouble came during a family dinner when my father mentioned losing a major contract to a younger, more tech-savvy competitor. He tried to brush it off as a temporary setback, but I could see the worry in his eyes. My mother was unusually quiet, and my siblings kept exchanging concerned glances. The family business that had been their source of pride and financial security was showing cracks. Over the following weeks, the situation deteriorated rapidly. My brother called me late one night, his voice shaking with panic. The firm was hemorrhaging money, several key employees had quit, and they were struggling to complete existing projects. The traditional methods that had worked for decades were suddenly obsolete, and they didn't know how to adapt. The irony wasn't lost on me. The same family that had mocked my career choice for years was now facing the consequences of ignoring technological advancement. Their resistance to change had left them vulnerable to more agile competitors who understood how to leverage technology for competitive advantage. The skills they dismissed as playing with computers were exactly what they needed to survive. I felt a mix of vindication and sympathy. Part of me wanted to let them figure it out themselves, to experience the same doubt and uncertainty I'd felt when they constantly questioned my choices. But seeing my father's genuine desperation, the same man who'd always seemed invincible, made me realize that family loyalty was more important than proving a point. My sister reached out next, asking if I could help them understand what was going wrong. She admitted that they'd been too proud to ask for help earlier, but now they were running out of options. The business that had supported the family for generations was on the verge of collapse, and they finally acknowledged that they needed expertise they didn't possess. I agreed to meet with them, not as the family disappointment, but as a successful entrepreneur who might be able to help. When I walked into their office, I saw the problems immediately. Their systems were outdated, their processes were inefficient, and their staff was drowning in manual tasks. It was exactly the kind of challenge my platform was designed to solve. My solution shocked everyone. I offered to buy their failing business. The proposal meeting was surreal. I sat across from my father, mother, and siblings in the same conference room where I'd once been lectured about getting a real job. Now I was presenting a business plan to acquire their company, backed by investors who believed in my vision. The tables had completely turned, and everyone in the room knew it. My startup had just closed our first major funding round, giving us the capital to expand and acquire complementary businesses. Their consulting firm, despite its current struggles, had valuable client relationships and industry expertise that could benefit our platform. It was a logical business decision, but it was also deeply personal. The offer was fair but firm. I would acquire the company, modernize their operations using our platform, and retain most of their staff. However, I would be the CEO, they would be employees, and we'd operate according to my vision for the business. The reversal was complete. The family disappointment was now offering to become their boss. My father's reaction was complex. I could see pride, shock, confusion, and grudging respect fighting for dominance in his expression. He'd spent years questioning my intelligence and judgment, and now his failed son was in a position to determine his professional future. The cognitive dissonance was visible on his face as he struggled to process the situation. My mother actually cried not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization that her lost son had quietly become more successful than anyone in the family. All those years of worry and disappointment had been misplaced. The child she'd thought was wasting his potential had actually been building something remarkable. My siblings had their own reactions to process. My brother, who'd always been the golden child, now found himself potentially working for his younger brother. My sister, who'd climbed the corporate ladder with traditional methods, was confronting the reality that innovation trumped convention. The family hierarchy was being rewritten in real time. The negotiation process revealed just how desperate their situation had become. Over the following weeks, as lawyers and accountants reviewed the details, the full extent of their problems became clear. The business was losing money faster than anyone had admitted, several major clients were preparing to leave, and their debt was substantial. They were months away from bankruptcy, and my offer represented their only realistic path to survival. The due diligence process was emotionally challenging for everyone. I had to examine every aspect of their operation with clinical detachment, evaluating the business my father had built as a potential acquisition target. The company that had once seemed so impressive to my childhood eyes was revealed to be outdated and inefficient by modern standards. But there were also hidden strengths. Their client relationships were deeper than I'd expected, their industry reputation was solid, and several key employees had skills that could be valuable after modernization. The business had good bones, it just needed a complete technological overhaul and new leadership approach. The negotiations were handled primarily through our lawyers, which helped maintain some professional distance. But the emotional undercurrents were impossible to ignore. Every contract clause represented a shift in family dynamics. Every term reflected the changing power structure we were all still processing. My father struggled the most with the transition. He'd built this business from nothing, and now he was being asked to hand control to his youngest son. The practical side of him recognized that it was the best option available, but the emotional side resisted giving up the identity he'd built over decades. But the real challenge wasn't the business, it was managing my own family as employees. The first day after the acquisition was awkward beyond description. My father, who'd commanded respect in boardrooms for decades, now had to run ideas past me for approval. My sister, accustomed to making executive decisions, found herself following protocols I'd established. The power dynamic that had defined our family for years was completely inverted. I'd prepared for the technical challenges of integrating their operations with our platform, but I hadn't fully anticipated the emotional complexity of becoming my family's boss. Every interaction carried the weight of our shared history. Every decision had implications beyond normal business considerations. The first few weeks were tense, with everyone tiptoeing around the elephant in the room. I was now their boss, and they were struggling to adjust to taking direction from someone they'd once dismissed as irresponsible. The professional relationship we needed to build was complicated by decades of personal history. I established clear boundaries from the beginning. During work hours, I was the CEO and they were employees. Personal family issues couldn't interfere with business decisions, and professional disagreements couldn't spill over into family time. It was a delicate balance that required constant attention and adjustment. The technology implementation went smoother than expected. Our platform integrated seamlessly with their existing client relationships, and the automation eliminated most of their manual processes. Within months, we'd streamlined their entire operation and dramatically improved their efficiency. The business metrics improved rapidly, validating my decision to acquire them. But the human elements took longer to resolve. My father had to learn to trust my judgment on decisions that affected his life's work. My siblings had to adjust to following my leadership instead of competing with me for parental approval. The family dynamics were being rewritten in real time, and everyone was learning their new roles. The breakthrough came when we landed our biggest client ever. 6 months after the acquisition, we secured a contract with a major corporation that had been considering our platform for their subsidiary management. The deal was worth more than the previous year's total revenue, and it validated our growth strategy. More importantly, it proved that the integration of traditional consulting with modern technology was working. My father played a crucial role in closing the deal, using his decades of relationship-building experience to complement our technical presentation. For the first time since the acquisition, I saw him truly embrace his new role. He wasn't just grudgingly accepting my leadership, he was actively contributing to our shared success. The celebration dinner was a turning point for our family. Instead of the usual tension and subtle competition, we were genuinely excited about our collective achievement. My parents beamed with pride when I explained how my father's contribution had been essential to winning the contract. My siblings asked thoughtful questions about our growth strategy and expansion plans. The success also attracted attention from industry publications and potential investors. Suddenly, my family found themselves fielding calls from reporters who wanted to interview the visionary CEO, who transformed a struggling consulting firm into a technology leader. The same people who'd once questioned my career choice were now bragging about their connection to my success. Then something unexpected happened. They started asking for my advice on their personal projects. The shift was subtle at first. My father began mentioning his investment decisions during our weekly check-ins, casually asking for my thoughts on various opportunities. My sister requested my input on her daughter's college application strategy. My brother wanted help choosing technology solutions for his own side business. These conversations revealed how much our relationship had evolved. They weren't just acknowledging my professional success. They were recognizing my judgment and seeking my guidance on important personal matters. The student had become the teacher, and they were finally ready to learn. The Sunday dinners that had once been sources of dread became opportunities for meaningful conversation. Instead of defending my choices, I found myself sharing insights about business strategy, technology trends, and market opportunities. My parents hung on every word, genuinely interested in understanding the world I'd been trying to explain to them for years. My mother started telling her friends about her genius son who'd saved the family business. My father introduced me to his golf buddies as the CEO who'd revolutionized their industry. The same people who'd once changed the subject when I mentioned my work now treated me as the family's primary source of wisdom and guidance. The transformation was remarkable, but it also made me reflect on what had really changed. My success hadn't just proven them wrong about my career choice. It had forced them to reconsider their entire framework for evaluating achievement and worth. They'd been so focused on traditional markers of success that they'd missed the revolution happening around them. The business continued to grow, and we expanded into 3 new markets. By the end of our first year post-acquisition, we'd tripled our revenue and doubled our staff. The integration of traditional consulting expertise with modern technology had created a competitive advantage that our rivals couldn't match. We were landing clients that would have been impossible for either business to secure independently. The expansion required careful planning and execution. We opened offices in 2 new cities and hired specialists in emerging technologies. My family members became key players in this growth, each contributing their unique strengths to our collective success. My father's relationship-building skills were invaluable for market entry, while my sister's analytical abilities helped optimize our expansion strategy. The media attention continued to grow, with several business publications featuring our story as an example of successful digital transformation. The narrative of a tech entrepreneur saving his family's traditional business resonated with readers who were facing similar challenges in their own industries. But the most meaningful recognition came from our clients. They consistently praised our unique combination of technological innovation and deep industry knowledge. The synthesis of old and new approaches was delivering results that neither pure technology nor traditional consulting could achieve alone. Now they brag about me to their friends, and I finally understand what family support feels like. The complete reversal of our family dynamic became clear during my nephew's graduation party. I overheard my father telling his brother about how proud he was of his son's achievements, describing in detail how I'd built my company from nothing and saved their family business. The same man who'd once questioned my intelligence was now my biggest advocate. My mother had similar conversations with her friends, sharing stories about my latest business successes and expansion plans. She'd carry printed articles about our company in her purse, ready to show anyone who would listen. The transformation from disappointment to pride was complete and genuine. The shift in family dynamics extended beyond business success. My siblings genuinely sought my advice on major life decisions, treating me as the family's primary source of wisdom and guidance. The dismissive attitudes of the past had been replaced by genuine respect and admiration. But the change went deeper than professional recognition. We actually enjoyed each other's company now, freed from the constant tension of judgment and disappointment. Family gatherings became collaborative planning sessions for future projects, rather than defensive explanations of past choices. The business success had given us a common purpose that transcended our personal differences. We were all working toward the same goals, and everyone's contributions were valued and recognized. The competitive dynamics that had once poisoned our relationships were replaced by cooperative collaboration. Looking back, I realized their mockery made me stronger than unconditional support would have. The years of criticism and doubt had forced me to develop resilience, determination, and self-reliance that I might not have otherwise possessed. Every dismissive comment had motivated me to work harder. Every doubt had strengthened my resolve to prove them wrong. If they'd believed in me from the beginning, I might have become complacent or satisfied with smaller achievements. Their resistance forced me to exceed their expectations so dramatically that they couldn't ignore my success. The obstacles they'd placed in my path had ultimately made me a better entrepreneur and leader. The experience taught me that external validation, while nice, was less important than internal conviction. I'd learned to trust my own judgment even when everyone around me disagreed. This confidence had been essential during the difficult early days of building my business. Their eventual recognition was satisfying, but it wasn't the driving force behind my success. I'd proven to myself that I could succeed on my own terms, regardless of what others thought. The family support I'd always craved became less important once I'd developed the self-confidence to succeed without it. The irony was that once I stopped needing their approval, I finally earned it. The desperation for validation that had once weakened my position was replaced by the quiet confidence that comes from proven success. They respected me now because I'd stopped requiring their respect to feel worthy. Today, our company employs over 50 people and serves clients across multiple industries. The platform we'd built in that cramped garage had evolved into a comprehensive business solution used by hundreds of companies. Our client base included everything from small family businesses to large corporations, all benefiting from the integration of traditional consulting with modern technology. The financial success exceeded our most optimistic projections. The company was profitable, growing rapidly, and attracting interest from potential acquirers and investors. My unconventional career choice had become the foundation for something bigger than any of us had imagined. But the personal transformation was even more significant than the business achievements. The family that had once mocked my dreams now depended on them for their livelihood, and somehow, that felt like the most natural progression in the world. My father had become one of my most trusted advisors, his decades of business experience providing valuable perspective on strategic decisions. My siblings had found their own niches within the company, contributing skills that complemented my technical expertise. We'd evolved from a dysfunctional family into an effective business team. The Sunday dinners that had once been sources of tension were now strategy sessions and celebration gatherings. We'd talk about upcoming projects, share client success stories, and plan for future expansion. The conversation flowed naturally between family updates and business developments. The success had validated not just my career choice, but my entire approach to life. Taking calculated risks, embracing change, and persisting through setbacks had proven more valuable than following conventional paths. The lesson extended beyond business to every aspect of personal development. Sometimes I wondered what would have happened if I'd listened to their advice and pursued a traditional career. Would I have been happier? More successful? The questions were academic now, but they reminded me that the unconventional path, while more difficult, had led to more meaningful rewards. The best moment came during our company's anniversary celebration. My father stood up to make a toast, and his voice cracked with emotion as he talked about how proud he was of what we'd built together. The handshake we shared afterward erased years of disappointment and validated every sleepless night, every rejected proposal, every moment of doubt I'd endured. That handshake represented more than professional recognition. It was acceptance, respect, and love all rolled into one gesture. The family disappointment had become the family success story, and everyone had played a part in that transformation. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Sonnet 4.